I gotta wait. How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
Welcome to the shed, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
I'm Dreme, a black woman with many beautiful interconnecting identities. A few I will name at this moment as we get started on this podcast journey together. A Bostonian, born and raised in the inner city, Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods, to a teenage single mother who has my whole heart. An educator, I've been working with youth and children since my teenage years, and formally, I have been teaching almost a decade now. That's wild to think about. An entrepreneur, I am the founder of The Chair, a black and brown centered tech platform dedicated to supporting people on their hair journey, where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a more joyous experience. I have a workable site, my prototype. It took me 2 years to build, and now I'm on this adventure that you're currently on with me. My goal for this podcast is to share stories, black stories, educator stories, entrepreneurship stories, and hair stories. I want you to leave each episode with the opportunity to gain new insight, just a glimpse into my world or the worlds that are featured on my podcasts, a little chuckle during your day or night, possibly a little anger to encourage you to advocate for justice, and hope to continue learning and dreaming. So come in and listen to the beautiful voices in the chair as they share their stories, starting with me.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Hey, as a teacher, I've come across many students and I love them all. And then I come across students who I think about often because they've taught me something that I feel has changed my beliefs about how I teach and lessons that I feel like I will carry outwardly. And Apple is one of those students. She was a student of mine when I lived in China. She introduced herself as saying, "My name is Apple," like the green one, not the red one. And she was one of the first students to introduce herself. I had third graders. And she smiled and she laughed and then she sat down. And I knew that this kid was going to teach me something this year. The story I'm going to tell, I've told many different shortened versions of it, but since it's my own podcast, I can explain the entire story from beginning to end. But before specifically talking about how Apple became my teacher, I think it's important to give some context. If you haven't listened to any other previous episodes talking about my experiences in China, or have read my Instagram stories, or have purchased my book talking about my experiences as a black educator in China, I was my students' first black teacher. Let's also remember that besides me, the only other representation that my kids had, because I asked, was either little black figures in possibly a book in the classroom, or Black Panther, because it wasn't banned in China. My kids asked regularly if I was from Wakanda, and they meant that seriously, and they said it with their entire chest. So as a teacher there, it was a requirement to present a presentation about ourselves to all of the parents. We had to do a 15-slide presentation about ourselves and our credentials. I received a standing ovation because I had a master's from UCLA. They were impressed with my resume. When it came to credentials, it was a very serious matter for the parents. So putting my race aside, they were impressed with what I was bringing to the table. Now, thinking about that, I was like, okay, they're secure in my intelligence to teach their kids. Our program specifically, you had to have a master's in education and you had to have a current teaching credential. and experience compared to the other programs, which didn't have all of the requirements. Also, our program was more expensive, and this was also an international boarding school, and the kids boarded usually 7 days a week. So after we did our presentations, we had the ability to talk to some parents, and some parents were very forward, talking about what type of teacher I wanted to be. Other parents were standoffish and just stared in the background, and other parents whispered to one another about whether or not they liked you. And this was all common. So I met Apple's mom. Just like Apple, she came up to me, very forward, very open, full of personality, and didn't speak a lick of English. But I knew she had a lot of opinions and things to say, even if she couldn't express them at that moment. A couple of months after that, Apple's mom came to my classroom with a bag of peppers for me. When I asked around why did she give me a bag of peppers, I was told it was an offering. It was something to show that she appreciated what I did and that she was thinking of me. Now back to my classroom. So since I am my kid's first Black teacher, there were many interruptions throughout the day where they would ask questions about my skin tone. They would ask questions about my hair. It would be completely off topic, not related to what we were doing, but kids would hold on to those questions and then ask me. So instead of being derailed constantly in class, I decided to integrate the conversations into lessons, into writing, into reading. And I had a very musical class. My kids sang, they danced, they hummed all day. And so I was like, okay, how can I talk about race and do it in a space that they would love? One of my favorite musicals was Hairspray. I love the 1988 version. I also really enjoyed the 2007 version. With that, I was like, okay, we could sing, we can dance, we can also work on language, we can work on our listening skills, questions, we would have visuals to be able to talk about color and race, and also we would be able to work a lot on our writing, which is what my third graders all needed to work on. So I had a plan.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Look, it's my commercial. We will be right back.
It's more than just a bad hair day. It's a journey. Finding the right hairstyle isn't easy, nor is finding the right stylist or the right products. Looking in every corner of the web gets messy, overwhelming, and exhausting. All the ads, the articles, the products, the videos, it shouldn't be this hard, but it is. And now, it isn't.
The chair.
A black and brown centered platform where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a new, joyful path on your hair journey. Avoid the clutter, save yourself hours, months, and even years of research and poor trial and error. Everything you need and only what you need is in one place. Hairboards made by people like you, for you. Find the right products, the right people, the right answers for you, stress-free. Join
The chair.
the community and make every day a great hair day. When you share your pain, you allow others to help you. And when you share your success, you help others get theirs. Lean on.
The chair.
We got you.
No stress, no strife. In the chair. The chair. The chair. All right.
And my plan was working. So as we were working through the 2007 version, we have a performance that comes up later in the year. So we are using pieces of Hairspray to perform. We're also really working on language and visual. It's going really well. And so I have one activity where I was showing my students pieces of the old Hairspray, the 1988 version, and we were working on compare and contrast. So I was taking some clips from the old one and we were comparing it to the new one. At first, I thought it would be just a boring exercise for them, but they loved it. They loved seeing what the characters look like. We were able to talk about the clothing. We were able to talk about the style, right? And the original version has more direct racial scenes than the 2007 version. In this lesson, this particular scene dealt with Penny's mom running away from Black people threatening Maybelle for stealing Penny. My students laughed and understood the ridiculousness of it all. And at the time, my students were very serious about recognizing the Black perspective because they were staring at me every day. We're doing this lesson at 8:30 in the morning. And then Apple raises her hand and she goes, "Hey, Miss Dreme." I'm like, "What's going on, Apple?" And she goes, "Miss Dreme, my mom says that people with tattoos are bad." I have tattoos. My kids can see them, the ones on my ankles. And I go, "Okay." And she goes, "Miss Dreme, my mom says people who have piercings are bad. I have my ears pierced. I have my nose pierced. And at the time, I had my tongue pierced." And I go, "Okay." And then she goes, "Miss Dreme, my mom says that Black people are bad." So then I take a second and I go, "Apple, how does that make you feel?" And she goes, "Miss Dreme, my mom doesn't like Black people." I wait. And then she continues, "She doesn't like Black people. I don't know why. You are Black and she doesn't understand why you are my teacher." After she said that, she covers her head with her fist and she starts to cry. They just start to fall. It's just a waterfall. And it's silence. All the kids in class are silent. And they're all looking at me or they're looking at her. So I take a moment and then I walk towards her and I reach out and I grab her fist and I look her in the eye and I say, "Hey, sometimes it's hard to learn about different people." And then she goes, "I know, but Miss Dreme, my mom doesn't like Black people. She says that they are bad, but you are good, Miss Dreme. So Black isn't bad." And at that moment, you could see all of her classmates are also nodding along. I started to recognize that this wasn't just an Apple conversation. Parents were having different conversations with their kids, and all these kids are feeling similar feelings. But Apple had the courage to say it out loud so we can have a discussion. Oh, and if you're interested to learn more about my experiences as a Black woman and educator in Guangzhou, China, I wrote my first ebook titled "Nowhere and Everywhere: Captured Emotions of a Beautifully Broken Love Story." It is on lulu.com. Take a read and see some beautiful photography of mine. Enjoy the rest of the show. Because at this time, we have been studying about segregation and integration. We have been talking about fear. I've been telling my students the very simple PG version about my incidences in China, about me being stared at, about people trying to touch my hair. And in class, we've talked about consent. So the kids knew about not touching my hair. They knew to ask a question. They, like all these things we were working on together as a class. And so as Apple is crying and my kids are nodding along, I take a moment and I just think, because I didn't have anything prepared. I wasn't expecting this conversation to happen at 8:30 in the morning. But I let her know that I'm here. And then I ask her, "How are you feeling?" because every day we were working on being able to express our feelings as a class. So when I asked that, the kids would rate how they're feeling 1 through 10, and we would talk about it. And sometimes if they didn't have a number, they would just say the emotion. And she said, Miss Dreme, I feel sad. My mom says, why? First grade, white person. Second grade, white person. Kindergarten, white people. Third grade, black. Why? And then she says, maybe if I have a black person in fourth grade, she, her mom, will be okay. That's what Apple says. Because she wasn't wrong. They had an Australian teacher. They had an American teacher who was also white. And they had some European teachers when they were in kindergarten. Me being a black woman, a black teacher, was confusing for her parents. And it's something that I didn't know. I didn't know that history until that moment. And being able to talk to my kids about how they felt about me being a teacher, being their teacher, but them also going home maybe once or twice a week on the weekends possibly, they're having these different conversations with their families. They are seeing me more than they're seeing their families. Apple is braiding my hair during recess time. She wore her hair in 2 ponytails like me. Apple wanted to wear darker lipstick because that's what I wore. Apple, who says to me, Miss Dreme, I want to be just like you when I grow up. She is teaching her mom, a third grader. She is critically thinking about the person that she wants to be. And I happen to be a role model for her. And I think it is extremely important that my identity is being seen and these kids are seeing it. Apple saw it. She sees me. I'm teaching her. She's learning from me. And when I think about this story, of course, my heart hurts a bit every time I recall it. But at the same time, I know that Apple is going to be a better person because she is starting to see herself in people who may not necessarily look like her. She is questioning why her mom thinks black people are bad when she has an example of someone who is teaching her to be better, to have different perspectives, to be open, to love difference. And Apple reminded me that even the small things about teaching about hairspray will make a difference for a kid like Apple. And that is a reason why I love being a teacher. And it will always continue to be a reason why I teach.
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
Thank you for listening to an episode of The Chair. I, of course, would love your continued support. Let me know what you think of this episode by doing all the things. Subscribe, comment, and come back next week, every week. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day. Or if you are like me, enjoy that moonlight and that 1 star under all your city lights. Love you. Talk to you later.
The chair.
How long I gotta wait for it to press record?
Go.
We support her. Shit.
Do your...
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story. Where we share